What's up, everybody? On today's show, one of the hardest working guys in the SEC, Cole Cubelic, is going to sit down with us to preview the 2023 SEC football season. We'll get his thoughts on A&M, Alabama, and much more. Also, Vanderbilt sets their homecoming game for this season. We'll tell you who that is and who are some of the SEC candidates that could win the Heisman Trophy this season. Locked on SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's happening, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. All right, got plenty to jump into. Let's do it. Let's go around the conference.
Boots out to the right. Takes the handoff. What a catch!
Around the conference.
And we start over at Vanderbilt. Yeah, we're starting with Vanderbilt because there's some newsworthy stuff coming out of Nashville. Vanderbilt football setting November 4th against Auburn as their homecoming matchup for the upcoming season. Auburn has not played in Nashville in over a decade, since 2012, and has not won in Nashville against the Commodores since 2003. Of course, Auburn got a new head coach in Hugh Freeze, so Vanderbilt may be taking their chance, going, that one could be winnable. Keep in mind, they beat Kentucky and Florida last year. So Vanderbilt deciding to put homecoming against Auburn. And maybe it's a winnable game for them. But the Commodores barely fell to Mizzou last season in their homecoming game last year, 17-14. And, man, that one was close. Had they won that one, they maybe could have finished 6-6 and gone to a bowl game. But Vanderbilt's got a tough road ahead. One of the sports books out there has their win total at just 3.5. Three of their non-conference games are against Hawaii, Alabama A&M, and UNLV. Look, Vandy, if you can't win those, I don't know what to tell you. But Vanderbilt going to open or going to have their homecoming game in November against Auburn. See if they can win that one. Maybe Vandy is on a roll there. I keep telling people. I had a friend of mine associated with Vanderbilt who said they see some shades of Jay Cutler and A.J. Swan. If he plays like Jay Cutler, Vandy's going to win a couple more games this year. So we shall see. Meanwhile, Greg McElroy, who, of course, covers the SEC, works for ESPN. He was talking this week on a podcast about the Heisman Trophy process, and he was talking about, maybe some of the best players on the best teams and who could win the Heisman. He said at Georgia, the best player on the best team is Brock Bowers and maybe could be Carson Beck. But that's kind of that built-in narrative that we talk about when we discuss the, Heisman Trophy, best player on the best team. But Greg McElroy said, I think Carson Beck is the Heisman dark horse, because if you look at the world of college football, how many teams can you tell me without a shadow of a doubt will be in the playoff mix? He said, I think Georgia will be a unanimous pick. You have a quarterback on a Heisman contending team that has great weapons, great support. And so he likes Carson Beck as a dark horse. And so that led me to Athlon Sports, has a story up on their top 10 SEC Heisman contenders. So figure we run through some of these. Keep in mind, the SEC has had a nice track record here. They've produced 3 of the last 4 Heisman Trophy winners, and Joe Burrow, Devontae Smith, and Bryce Young. So here are some of the names they threw out there. I'll run through 10 through 6 because I don't think any of these guys have a legitimate shot. But he's got Harold Perkins at LSU at number 10. Again, Perkins would have to have a monster, ridiculous season. Number 9, they've got Rocket Sanders at Arkansas. Great player, one of the best running backs in the SEC last year. Again, it's just going to take monster numbers. Number 8, Malik Neighbors at LSU. I mean, he would have to have a Devontae Smith-type season, as we know. Hard for a wide receiver to win it. Number 7, they list whoever the Alabama quarterback is. And I think this is kind of worth putting into perspective. Jalen Milroe, Ty Simpson, Tyler Buckner. Whoever wins that job, I know we're talking down Alabama like, oh, well, we don't even know who their quarterback is. Yeah, but whoever wins it is probably going to be pretty good. Like, and I keep telling people this, Ty Simpson, Jalen Milroe, they were good in the spring game. They looked good. Now, they had some bad moments. There were some picks, and I think that's why Nick Saban said, pull the trigger, let's go get Tyler Buckner and bring him down here through the portal, and let's have a full-on outright competition. But look, don't let Milroe or Simpson win that job and start putting up some big numbers. They could have Alabama undefeated or with one loss and be in the Heisman conversation. Number 6, again, this is from Athlon Sports. They throw KJ Jefferson in there. KJ's going to need monster numbers. And here we get to their top 5. Coming in number 5, they have Quinshon Judkins from Ole Miss. Now, Quinshon, as a true freshman last year, 1,500 rushing yards, 17 total touchdowns, and led the conference with 76 missed tackles forced. Fantastic. Again, wins and losses do matter a little bit. Ole Miss is going to have to be something like 10-2 at the least. And Quinshon's going to be having to put up monster. As good as those numbers were, 1,500 rushing yards last year, I think he's going to have to be knocking on the door of, maybe close to 2,000. It's going to have to be something really, really special. Coming in at number 4, they got Carson Beck here. And again, this is my pick. This is who we just talked about. Greg McElroy has this his dark horse. But here's what Athlon says. With Stetson Bennett gone, Carson Beck becomes the starting quarterback on the back-to-back national championship winning Bulldogs. He's in the spotlight every week, and Georgia should go undefeated in 2023 with a navigatable schedule. All Beck has to do is not mess up, and he'll be the quarterback in the number 1 ranked team throughout the season. Of course, he's going to be in the preseason Heisman discussion. I've talked about this. I just think, when you go running back by committee like Georgia does, I don't know if Kendall Milton's going to be able to put up the numbers, that it would take to win the Heisman. I don't know if any one defensive player is just going to stand out ridiculously among all the rest. I just think I think Carson Beck is a good call here. I think he has a chance to be in that Heisman spotlight if Georgia runs the table, like a lot of people think. Coming in number 3 on the Athlon Sports list, they've got Joe Milton. Here's what Athlon says. Milton looked really good in his 2 starts last year while playing for the injured Hendon Hooker in the Orange Bowl against Clemson. Threw for 250 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, while rallying what could have easily been a discouraged Tennessee team to a blowout win over Clemson. He has a cannon. Now we just wait to see if he can put some touch on those passes. Again, good call here. I do think Joe Milton's got a chance to put up some monster numbers. But again, record matters, and they're going to need some marquee resume wins to put him in the Heisman conversation, but certainly within the realm of possibility. And now we get to the top 2. Coming in at number 2, they've got Brock Bowers, the tight end from Georgia. Over 1,000 receiving yards last year, 10 total touchdowns. And here's what Athlon says. Brock Bowers enters his junior season, putting together record-breaking freshman and sophomore campaigns. He just keeps producing, and through 2 seasons, has 119 catches for 1,800 yards and 24 touchdowns. If he wins his 3rd national championship as the best player on Georgia's team, does he become the greatest college football player of all time? I just cannot see the Heisman Trust giving a tight end in this day and age an award. Like I said, if Brock Bowers is putting up big numbers, guess who else is putting up those big numbers? Carson Beck. And it's just become kind of a default to the quarterback award. That's where I think Brock Bowers is going to have a tough time. He's going to need some rushing touchdowns. And maybe this run some end arounds for him. I don't know. But they're going to have to get really creative to balloon up his numbers, get some rushing touchdowns to go with the receiving touchdowns, because Carson Beck's going to be the guy throwing all those touchdowns. And at the end of the day, if Carson Beck has, 3,000 yards and passing and, 30, 40 touchdowns, something ridiculous, you're going to have to give it to Carson Beck. So Brock Bowers, I just think it's going to be really tough for him. And coming in at number 1 on this list, this is from Athlon Sports. They have Jaden Daniels from LSU. And again, Jaden threw for 2,900 yards, 17 touchdowns, only 3 picks last season. Considered the SEC's top returning quarterback. He was just named preseason all SEC first-team quarterback by the media. Surrounded by talent, but, man, to me, Jaden Daniels, 2,900 passing yards, 885 rushing yards last year, 17 passing touchdowns, 11 rushing touchdowns. I just think this. Jaden Daniels, if he's going to get there, he's going to need, at least 3,000 passing yards and at least 1,000 rushing yards. When you think back to some of the quarterbacks who've won in the past, or won the Heisman, Lamar Jackson, Cam Newton, guys who had the running ability, you have to be not just a great passer, but you have to show your skill set as a dynamic, electric, ridiculous runner. And so Jaden Daniels is going to need at least, like I'd say even maybe at least 1,200 rushing yards to go with over 3,000 passing yards. And oh, by the way, probably have LSU at least 10-2, if not 11-1, or undefeated. So not outside the realm of possibility, but like if I were doing my Heisman picks, and maybe we'll get into this as the summer goes along, but like from the SEC, if I was ranking my guys, I would put Carson Beck right now number 1 as the best chance to win the Heisman. Then maybe behind that, Jaden Daniels and Joe Milton. I just don't see, again, for Quinshawn or Rocket Sanders to win it, they're just going to have to put up ridiculous numbers as a running back. And I would maybe even put one of the Alabama running backs in here as just as like a safety. Whether it's Jace McClellan. I know Justice Haynes expects to play a lot, but probably Jace McClellan. Like he's going to finish with a ton of yards at the end of the year. I'd put him in my top 5 of possible Heisman winners this year. And look, if Jalen Milroe wins that job in Alabama, he's going to put up ridiculous rushing and passing yards as well. So he'll be in the conversation. So fun to kick around. Again, kind of interesting because it's not like a clear-cut, just outright favorite player from the SEC that could win the Heisman. But fun to kick some of those around. It'll be fun to look back on at the end of the season and see, is the eventual Heisman winner in this conversation. Caleb Williams at USC to win it again. I know he's among the favorites. It's going to be tough. Like he's going to have to top what he did last year and have a better record. It's just, that's the standard we hold you to. Like you got to do better. You got to do better than you did a year ago. All right, there we go. That's the latest going on around the conference. Coming up next, our conversation with the great Cole Cubelic. That's coming your way next. Thanks again for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. First, a message from our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you can have access to the best qualified candidates available. It's why you got to go check out our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helping you find the right people for your team faster and for free. It's super easy to do. You just go to their website, you post your job for free, you add the purple hiring frame that to your profile. That lets people know that you are hiring and help spread the word. And then they got some awesome, simple tools for you, like screening questions that make it easy to focus on the candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you want to interview and hire and get the ball moving. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading candidates. LinkedIn Jobs, helping you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Go post your job for free. LinkedIn.com/LockedOnCollege. That's LinkedIn.com/LockedOnCollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Rolling along here from SEC Media Days, and one of the hardest working guys in the SEC. I meant to ask Greg Sankey who his favorite SEC personality is. I bet Cole Cubelic probably ranks up
definitely
there, right?
Not me. Probably Alyssa Lang.
Okay.
And then Dar. I think actually, you know what? I'm gonna say Dari 1, Alyssa 2, Burns 3.
Gonna go down the list for you?
Maybe Jordan.
Man,
I might not even crack the top 5. I would love for you to ask him that though, or somebody to ask him that. I can't ask him on my show. We've got him tomorrow.
Yeah,
that would be weird.
He'll pander too. He'll say you. But you are one of the most hardest working guys. You do your Jocks FM show every day with Greg McElroy. You're doing all the SEC Network stuff. You hop on ESPN to do analysis, and you were doing what the XFL, right?
We did XFL. It was a lot of fun. Danny and The Rock did a great job kind of rebooting that thing. We were on it in 2020 also when they brought it back again, and it was really cool. It's very different. Obviously, the access, talking to players on the sideline right after plays, hearing coaches, hearing the calls. And Greg had to miss a couple games, so I did a few in the booth, and it's a totally different animal because you're laying out half the time to hear the call, and then you try to quickly explain what to watch because of what the call is. And then they run the play, and so then you get reactions from quarterback and players mic'd up. It's wild. I said after a couple of those I did, I said this is the most exhausted after a game I've ever been because you're constantly looking for people to talk to. You're listening, you're watching. It's a lot, but yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it seemed like it was successful. We've been looking. I mean, look, we've got SEC football, we got the NFL. there's room for something else, and XFL seems to be finding.
Well, yeah, no, and the USFL's been back for 2 years. The AFL Arena League says they're coming back, I think, next year. Some other guys trying to do a different spring league. It's kind of like the CFL's out there. I agree. There's always a market for football. It's just I think now people are kind of like they think any football will work, and it's like well, it's still got to be a pretty decent product.
There's always a market for SEC football, and look, we can talk about the favorites. Georgia's loaded again. It looks like it's going to be between Alabama and LSU in the West. Let me kind of pivot and say, who's a team that you think could be a surprise and win the East or West, but could also finish near the bottom? Like, what's that team we're looking at that's kind of an enigma right now?
I think there are a lot of those, Chris. I think the most intriguing portion of college football in general this year is the middle of the SEC West. And I would give you your option. If you wanted to choose A&M to be in or out, you could. You could say Bama, LSU separate, Bama, LSU, A&M separate. What happens with the rest of those? Because I can convince you that Ole Miss is going to be really good. I can convince you that they'll be okay. I can convince you that Auburn's added enough guys to where they're going to be scary and they're going to exceed expectations. I could convince you that they might not be that great. I could do the same with Arkansas. I could do the same with Mississippi State. I mean, Mississippi State, you got returning running back, quarterback, a really good receiver coming back. Most of the O-line's back. The front seven's back. But they're doing a complete 180 on offense. They got first. I like Zach Arnett, but it's still a first-year head football coach. So things are going to go wrong. I don't know how that's going to work. I really don't. They're the biggest question mark in the league to me. Arkansas, I mean, who wouldn't want to have that 1-2 punch with KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders?
Right.
But I don't know if those weapons are going to be. I mean, they hit a home run on Matt Landers last year. Yeah. I mean, I had Jake Fromm telling me in television meetings that Matt Landers reminded him of Randy Moss in practice. That was like 7 years ago. They go to Toledo. It doesn't work out. He gets to Arkansas. It's kind of like, yeah, we've tried this a few times. I'm not going to expect anything. And he goes and puts up like 900 yards receiving. Hazelwood was a great get for them last year. I will say this. Varkey's Gums, the tight end from North Texas, is going to be really good for Arkansas. I also like Travis as their D coordinator. I think by structure, that defense will be more responsible and probably give up fewer big plays and just be more sound, I guess.
They almost have to be.
Well, and I think Barry kind of had to do what he was doing, just based on what they had personnel-wise. Same thing with Ole Miss. I think Pete Golding, by alignment, like what he's going to do, they'll be better against the run. And they may be deeper at D tackle, like interior D tackle, than they've ever been. This Joshua Hayes kid they got from NC State can play. The kid they're getting from Nebraska, he's stout. I mean, that's an SEC D tackle. And then obviously you've had J.J. Pegues, who's been working on it for a while, that gives you a big physical presence. Like, they're deep there, and that structure will just be much more sound against the run. They'll be 20% better against the run, Chris, just based on their alignment, like how they line up on every play.
Yeah, it's so funny you mentioned Mississippi State, because I've interviewed Wilt Rogers this offseason. He's talked about, how much he likes the new system Kevin Barbet's bringing in. But when I was doing, somebody asked me earlier today, give me your top 3 quarterbacks in the SEC. And I was like, all right, well, I really like, Jaden Daniels, KJ Jefferson. I said, Will Rogers? I mean, like, I don't know what he's going to be in this system.
I asked him yesterday. I sat down with him and I said, last time you took a snap under center? He said, I did it once in high school. Not one game, one snap. And he said, before that, probably Pee Wee football. Wow. And I said, okay, cool. I said, how many times do you turn your back to the defense? And it almost took him off guard. He kind of like sat back and said, oh man, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Like, he goes, never.
Wow.
Like, I'm talking play action where they're going to run stretch zone and they're going to run some gap scheme stuff. You put that ball in the belly of the running back and then you turn around and your back's to the defense. And when you come back, there's no telling how much that picture is going to have changed.
Yeah.
He hasn't done that in the game. So I love Will. I think he's great. I think he's tough. He's a competitor. He's accurate. He's much better down the field than people give him credit for. But who knows? I mean, literally, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, Hugh Freeze has gone out and gotten the best quarterback, the best tight end, the best tackle, maybe the 2 best tackles, and the best guard, and the best center. It's not going to be the best guard because the kid they got coming back is going to be really good. But he may have gotten 4 of their best offensive linemen. He's got their best nose guard, probably 2 of their best linebackers, and probably the 2 best receivers. And another running back that's going to help, but he's just not better than Jarquez Hunter. And like half of their starters are going to be from the portal.
Yeah.
What if that's Michigan State a couple of years ago and it just works?
Yeah.
I don't know. But there are so many maybes and ifs, buts. I think that division after Alabama LSU is going to be really fun to watch. Yeah, even with A&M, they're more talented than all those teams.
Yeah.
Is there a culture problem? I'm not accusing. I'm not pointing a finger, but with the way some things were happening late last year, it's a fair question. I don't think there is. The thing about that is you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And people can ask you, and you would say, nah, man, we're good. But like once it hits, it's way too late.
Yeah.
I don't think the Petrino thing is a problem. I think it's actually good. Having Jim Chaney in there is going to be really good. I think Connor Wigman's going to be fine. A&M's got a chance to be really good. I love their D-line. I don't love the second and third level of their defense, but if they can move the ball offensively and the D-line disrupts, they could be really good. I mean, it's going to be fun to watch.
What's the floor for Jimbo to stick? 6-6? Or is that too much? Feels like 6-6. You can't fire a guy. But then again,
oh, no, you can.
What they're paying and the expectations there.
We have fired coaches a year after winning national titles, multiple, here in the last decade. So
yeah,
I think 6-6 would be tough for me to have confidence that they continue down that path.
Yeah, I guess it's always what does it look like, but yeah, it's look, they're getting antsy there. They've written the check. They were asked to write the checks. They wrote the checks.
Yeah,
they were asked for new facilities. They've upgraded facilities. They've done it all. Now it's on coaching. Go win games.
Well, here's the thing: they got so much money, they'd be doing that if they were 3 and 4 win team every year. Still, I don't think that would matter. They'd figure that out one way or the other.
Two of the other guys, I think, we talk about what are they? We don't know. Devin Leary coming to Kentucky. I've watched this film and I'm like, this is a dude. Like, if they've got an offensive line and those weapons he has, I think he's set for a big year. And then the Joe Milton factor at Tennessee, following Hendon Hooker. Look, he's not going to be Hendon Hooker, but can he be some semblance of that?
He's going to be different because he's got a different skill set than Hendon did. Yeah, I think you're going to see some interior quarterback run, like some quarterback power. I think you're going to see more shots down the field because he's got better capabilities of doing that. But I do think that the inconsistency will show up, and everybody immediately goes accuracy there. It's not accuracy for me, it's velocity. And I feel like Joe Milton, he struggles with controlling his velocity up and down when it needs to be up, when it needs to be down. He doesn't have a changeup right now. Right. If he develops that, they may be unstoppable on offense. They got a really good group of receivers. Ramel Keaton's a little bit of your do-it-all guy. Brew McCoy is your big physical 50-50 ball guy. Squirrel White's your like get him quick and let him go guy. And then apparently Dante Thornton runs like Jalen Hyatt. I mean, we'll see. That's saying a lot, but that's what I've been told. I'm worried about the offensive line a little bit because Darnell Wright was that good last year. He really was. He was dominant. Your two best linemen are gone. You bring some back. I like Spraggins, but he's not a first-round pick like some of these people are saying. Mays did a nice job at center. He'll be healthy. He'll be back. The John Campbell kid from Miami, I think, is going to be able to help him. I think he's a guy that has that ability. But I don't know if that group's going to be as good as it was last year, and that's the reason they excelled last season. And defensively, I still just don't see him getting a ton of stops. I think, getting Peely's going to be great. It'll help, but they don't have a ton of takeover guys on defense, or really maybe any. So that'll be interesting to see, and they just weren't good on that side of the ball. With Kentucky, I am very high on Kentucky because I think when you do what they do, when your foundation is what theirs is, it's always pretty easy to kind of live there and stay there. And Stoops has done a good job of getting a little more explosive, a little more athletic. Chris, they have the best receiving room they've ever had. Yeah. Ever in the history of Kentucky football. I mean, listen, I know Craig East was amazing. Randall Cobb's amazing. And I'm not saying any of those guys are those guys, but collectively, they've never had this. Yeah. Stoops loves their tight end room. Nobody knows who Ray Davis is. He's a really good running back from Vanderbilt.
Rusher in the SEC
He's a really good running back from Vanderbilt. He can play. And Brad White is an amazing defensive coordinator. I mean, you saw J.J. Weaver today. I mean, the dude looks like a small forward in the NBA.
His hands are freaking huge.
Massive. And I think you have an off-the-ball linebacker that's got a chance to be a star this year. So if they're a team that you don't want in a street fight, and now they're a little more athletic, and they have a quarterback in a very quarterback-friendly system that knows how to distribute. They just have to keep him up right. Marquez Cox and those guys, it has to work out up front. If the offensive line is C+, B-, Kentucky will be the second best team in the East.
Last one for you. You're in the middle of Alabama country. How are fans reacting to, one, a two-loss season a year ago with Nick Saban, but two, being at this point in the offseason, we still don't know who the starting quarterback is. I'm sure they're all taking it in stride and just being very optimistic.
Well, no,
right?
They all got their instructions today. It's like baking a cake. You don't take the cake out early. Coach Saban made them fully aware of that. They should take that and run with it because I thought it was a good analogy. It's totally fair. Like, and it's not just a cake. Like, do you take your pizza out 10 minutes early and it's like gooey and not finished? No. You want the finished product. And I don't think we'll get that finished product until we go into the Texas game.
Yeah.
Historically, he's done it before. He's gone 2-3 games. They don't want to do that with Texas because Texas has got guys. Texas is real. And it's hard to say that because everybody immediately wants to say, well, Cubelic said Texas is back. Look at the guys. I mean, Isaiah Nayor is going to catch passes in the NFL. Xavier Worthy is going to catch passes in the NFL. Yep. Quinn Ewers is going to throw passes in the NFL. They got a tackle that's going to play in the NFL. Like, they got guys. And I think they're going to be tough. And Sark can draw it up, and Sark knows how to draw it up. So it doesn't feel like a 2-loss season. It's weird when you said that because I was like, man, it feels like more of a 4 or 5-loss season the way people talk about it. But I think there are very intricate details of this team that could be different, that could be very big. I think it's a team that relied on individuals, and I think NIL played into it a little bit, not in a negative way, but I think when there's a difference between a hero and a superhero. And when you have a superhero, I think everybody is more prone to sit back and wait and watch and let them save the day, as opposed to a hero who probably knows he can't do it by himself. And he looks around and he says, are we going to do this? All right, well, let's go. And Will Anderson and Bryce were superheroes last year. And then I think even like you throw the NIL stuff on top of it, and it's like, well, he got $1 million from whatever, or he's in a Dr. Pepper commercial.
Right.
Like, this guy's got a clothing deal. I think what it does is it inherently can force you to sort of back down. And not just from a playing perspective, but from a leadership perspective, say, well, they'll do it. They got it.
Yeah.
It's their team. It's okay. Like, they'll figure it out. I think there was a lot of that last year because I'm told the leadership's a lot better this year. I think I've told it's totally different.
Yeah.
And I can see that and I can believe that. So I think that this team is hungry. I think collectively they're really good at a lot of positions. Tight end, running back, wide receiver. Do they have the A+++ guy that we've already seen do it? Maybe not. But I think they got a linebacker in Deontay Lawson that could be. Dallas Turner, best edge rusher in the league. Jaheim Otis, best interior D lineman in the league. Tyler Booker's the best guard in the league. Kool-Aid McKinstry's the best corner in the league. Like, there's still a lot of best at Alabama. But we look at the quarterback situation and we say, no, can't do it. But Georgia's getting a new quarterback. Ohio State's getting a new quarterback. And everybody's just plugging them in. So it's, I maybe I'm too close to it because I live there, but I am going to afford Alabama a little bit of benefit of the doubt that they can actually be pretty good this year. It's like I tweeted it last week, the Bobby Dodd Award puts Saban on the watch list. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put some eyes on that guy this year. I'm going to see what he's got. Let's pay some attention to this Saban character.
It's like LeBron
see
for
if he
MVP.
can win some games. Yeah.
He could do it every year.
You know what? I might actually watch them. I wasn't going to, but we'll see what he's got.
So lastly, to wrap that up, LSU or Bama, who would you pick as the favorite in the West?
I would have LSU right now because if you win all, I think Bama probably, and I'm not a recruiting guy, so I don't really know, but let's just look at what they've done in the numbers. And I asked Bud Elliott, and he tells me they have better talent across the board behind the first-string guys. Now, LSU toe-to-toe first-string guys, like I'd say LSU better offensive line. I think right now they're better at quarterback. They're better at receiver collectively. I mean, LSU's got some robots at wide receiver, man.
Yeah.
Now, they're not as deep at tight end, but they have a really good one. Interior D-line, I think LSU's got 2. I think Bama's got 1. Pass rusher, if Harold Perkins isn't lined up there, then Dallas Turner's better. If Harold best defensive player, Harold Perkins. Corner, Bama. Secondary, Bama. But because of quarterback and him being one of the only 2 quarterbacks in the league that is returning with their offensive coordinator, I probably lean LSU right now.
Yeah, continuity plays a role, and you got to roll with it. He is Cole Cubelic. Cole, thanks so much for stopping by, man. We really appreciate it.
Always appreciate you having me.
All right, more from SEC Media Days right after this. All right. Thanks again to Cole Cubelic for joining us. Tremendous stuff there with him at SEC Media Days last week. Thank you guys so much for making us your first listen every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Keep checking us out every day on the show. Tomorrow on the show, more of our conversations from SEC Media Days. We still got to bring you some of our great guests like Jordan Rogers, Alyssa Lang, Brad Nessler, Darian Oka, some great conversations we haven't brought to you guys yet. So keep checking us out every day right here on Locked On SEC. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Building a big following there, getting close to 4,000 followers there. We want to hit that before the start of the football season because we got some great stuff coming to you guys all throughout the football season. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC. We will talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.